The Haunting of Wexham. In the quiet village of Wexham, nestled between the rolling hills and the whispering woods, an eerie stillness hung in the air. The sun, a pale disk in a sky heavy with clouds, cast long shadows over the cobbled streets, where the echoes of the past seemed to linger. The village, once vibrant and full of life, had become a place steeped in mystery, where the whispers of the dead mingled with the laughter of the living. It was as if the very stones of the village had absorbed the stories of those who had walked its paths, their secrets buried beneath layers of time and sorrow. At the heart of Wexham stood the Ashcombe Manor, a crumbling edifice that loomed over the village like a sentinel of forgotten memories, its once proud facade now marred by time and neglect, bore the marks of a tragic history. The manor had been the home of the Ashcombe family, whose legacy was intertwined with the village's fate. Legends spoke of a dark past, of a scandal that had torn the family apart and left a stain on the very fabric of the community. The townspeople, many of whom were descendants of the Ashcombe lineage, often spoke in hushed tones about the events that had transpired within those walls, their eyes darting nervously whenever the name was mentioned. As dusk settled over the village, the atmosphere thickened with an unspoken tension. Shadows danced in the corners of the manor, and the wind howled through the trees, as if warning of the secrets yet to be unearthed. It was said that the spirits of the Ashcombe family still roamed the halls of the village's fate. Manor, their presence felt by those who dared to enter. The villagers often claimed to hear faint whispers in the night echoing the sorrow of the past, and some even swore they had seen ghostly figures flitting through the trees, their faces obscured by the darkness. In this atmosphere of foreboding, the mystery of the missing heirloom of the Ashcombe family loomed large. It was a relic of immense value, a symbol of the family's once great status, and its disappearance had left the village in a state of unease. The townspeople, bound by the weight of history, felt the past haunting their present, as if the very fabric of their lives was woven from the threads of those long-forgotten tragedies. In Wexham, the past was not merely a memory. It was a living, breathing entity that shaped the very essence of the village, and its secrets awaited the one brave enough to uncover them. Though the return of Eleanor Ashcombe. Eleanor Ashcombe had not set foot in Wexham for nearly 2 decades. As a young woman, she had left the village behind, seeking a life of scholarship and quiet independence in the bustling city of London. Now, at 37, she had returned, drawn back by the weight of history and the unanswered questions that had haunted her family for generations. A historian by trade and a woman of quiet determination, Eleanor had spent years piecing together the fragmented remnants of the Ashcombe legacy, her research uncovering whispers of scandal, betrayal, and a long-buried tragedy that had shaped the fate of the village. Yet, no amount of study had prepared her for the reality of Wexham itself, where the past was not merely a subject of academic inquiry. It was a living presence, pressing in on her with every step she took. As she arrived at the village's edge, the familiar scent of damp earth and old wood filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of a church bell tolling in the distance. The people of Wexham, though wary of outsiders, had long known of Eleanor's return. Some regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and unease, while others simply turned away, unwilling to confront the past that had shaped their lives. She had come not as a stranger, but as a descendant of the Ashcombe family, a woman whose bloodline was inextricably tied to the very mystery that had defined the village for so many years. Eleanor's presence had not gone unnoticed. The village's most respected elder, Mr. District Whitcomb, had already made it clear that the past was not to be disturbed. "Some things," he had warned in a low voice, "are best left buried." But Eleanor had no intention of turning away. She had returned not only to uncover the truth, but to understand the forces that had shaped her own life, forces she had long sought to escape. The mystery of the missing heirloom had always been more than a historical curiosity. It was a puzzle that had haunted her since childhood, a mystery that now demanded to be solved. As she stepped onto the cobbled streets of Wexham, the weight of the past settled upon her shoulders. The village, though unchanged in outward appearance, seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next chapter of its long and troubled history to unfold. The Ashcombe legacy, a history of scandal and tragedy. The Ashcombe family had once been one of the most influential in Wexham, their name synonymous with wealth, power, and prestige. Generations of Ashcombe men had served as local magistrates, while the women had presided over the village's most esteemed social circles. Their estate, Ashcombe Manor, had stood as a symbol of their affluence, its grand halls and opulent furnishings a testament to the family's long-held dominance over the region. But beneath the surface of this gilded facade lay a legacy marred by scandal, betrayal, and tragedy, secrets that had long been buried but never truly erased. The first great scandal had erupted in the year 1893, a time when the Ashcombe family's fortunes had reached their peak. The eldest son, Edward Ashcombe, had been a man of great ambition, his mind as sharp as his father's. He had inherited the estate with the expectation that he would continue the family's legacy. But his ambitions had led him down a path of recklessness. It was during this time that the Ashcombe name became entwined with the most infamous scandal in Wexham's history. A young woman from a neighboring village, Margaret Hargreaves, had fallen in love with Edward, despite the disapproval of his family. Their secret union had been discovered, and in the wake of the scandal, Margaret had been cast out of the village, her name forever tarnished by the whispers of the townspeople. Edward, shamed and disgraced, had vanished from public life, leaving behind a family that had been shattered by the weight of their own pride. But his ambition did not end there. His younger brother, Thomas Ashcombe, had been found dead in the manor's library, his body discovered by the housemaid in the early hours of the morning. The official cause of death had been ruled as a tragic accident, a fall from a high window. Yet, the villagers had long suspected foul play, their suspicions fueled by the unexplained nature of the event. Some whispered that Thomas had uncovered a secret that his brother had sought to protect, a secret that had led to his untimely demise. Others claimed that the family had been cursed, their bloodline tainted by the sins of the past. The final blow to the Ashcombe legacy had come in the form of the missing heirloom, a relic of immense value and symbolic significance. The heirloom, a rare and intricately crafted pendant, had been passed down through generations of Ashcombe women, a symbol of their lineage and a testament to their enduring legacy. But when it vanished from the family's possession in the early years of the 20th century, the Ashcombe name had been further tarnished. The pendant had never been found, and its disappearance had only deepened the mystery surrounding the family's fate. Some believed it had been stolen, while others whispered that it had been hidden away by the last surviving Ashcombe heir, a woman who had died in obscurity, her final days spent in the shadow of the family's disgrace. The weight of these tragedies had left an indelible mark on the village of Wexham, shaping the lives of those who would come after. The Ashcombe name had become a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of ambition, pride, and the secrets that could not be buried. And now, as Eleanor Ashcombe returned to the village, the past seemed to rise once more, its echoes pressing in on her like the weight of an unspoken truth. The mystery of the missing heirloom was no longer just a historical curiosity. It was a thread that connected her to the very legacy she had spent her life trying to understand. Whispers in the village Eleanor's return had not gone unnoticed, and as she moved through the narrow streets of Wexham, the villagers watched her with a mixture of curiosity and unease. The blacksmith, a broad-shouldered man with a face weathered by years of labor, greeted her with a nod, his expression unreadable. "It's been a long time, Miss Ashcombe," he said, his voice low. "Too long." His words carried an unspoken warning. That sent a chill down Eleanor's spine. She passed the shopkeeper, a woman whose face had grown haggard with age, who barely looked up from the ledger in her hands. "You've come back for the same reason as the others," she muttered, more to herself than to Eleanor. The clergyman, a man of quiet dignity, offered a brief smile but quickly turned away, his eyes lingering on the manor as if it were a thing best left undisturbed. Eleanor pressed on, her steps measured, her mind racing with the weight of the past. She had expected some hesitation, some reluctance from the villagers, but the depth of their fear unsettled her. It was not just the memory of the Ashcombe family scandal that lingered. It was something more, something unspoken, something that had taken root in the very fabric of the village. At the village square, she paused to speak with the mayor, a man whose presence commanded respect. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a wariness that made Eleanor uneasy. "The past is not something to be disturbed," he said carefully. "Some things are best left buried." His words echoed the warnings she had already heard, but they carried a weight that suggested more than mere superstition. There was an unspoken understanding among the villagers, a shared knowledge that the Ashcombe legacy was not merely a matter of history. It was something that still held power over them. Eleanor had come to Wexham to uncover the truth, but now she found herself standing at the threshold of a mystery that had been deliberately obscured. The villagers did not fear the past itself, but his eyes betrayed a wariness that made a quarter. A shared knowledge that the Ashcombe legacy was not merely a matter of history. The villagers did not fear the past itself. It had left behind. And as she stood in the heart of the village, surrounded by the weight of history, she realized that the answer she sought would not come easily. The arrival of the stranger. As Eleanor continued her walk through the village, a shadow flitted across the corner of her vision, drawing her attention. A tall figure, cloaked in a long coat that seemed to absorb the light around it, stood just beyond the edge of the square, watching her with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. The stranger was a man, his face obscured by the brim of a wide hat, but his presence was unmistakable, an enigma wrapped in mystery. The villagers had already begun to murmur, their whispers rising like a tide. "Who is that?" they asked, their eyes darting between. "Eleanor and the stranger! He doesn't belong here!" The man's demeanor was unnerving. He seemed to be both a part of the village and entirely apart from it, as if he had stepped out of a forgotten tale. Eleanor felt a sudden urge to confront him, but something held her back. It was not fear, but a strange sense of foreboding that gripped her heart. The man's presence was like a dark cloud looming over the village and its inhabitants. He moved with a grace that was almost unnatural, his steps light and deliberate, as if he were not merely walking, but gliding through the air. As he approached, Eleanor's heart raced. "You are not from here," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The man's presence was like a dark cloud looming over the village and entirely a point back and unsettling. His eyes, deep and dark, seemed to hold the weight of untold secrets, and his lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. "Not from here, no," he replied, his voice smooth and low like the whisper of the wind through the trees. "But I know this place well." The villagers, now fully aware of the stranger's presence, began to shift uneasily. Some turned away, while others leaned in as if eager to hear what he might say. The air thickened with tension, and Eleanor felt the weight of their scrutiny pressing down on her. "Why are you here?" she pressed, her curiosity mingling with a growing sense of unease. The man tilted his head, considering her question as if it were a riddle he had long pondered. "I have come to uncover the truth," he said, cryptically, his eyes glinting with a mixture of determination and something else, something that felt dangerously close to mischief. Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. "What truth?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The stranger's smile widened, and for a moment the shadows around him seemed to deepen, as if the very air was holding its breath. "The truth about the past," he replied, his voice echoing in the square like a haunting melody, "and the secrets that bind you to it." With that he turned, his figure disappearing into the crowd, leaving Eleanor and the villagers in a state of heightened tension. The air was thick with unspoken fears, and as the stranger vanished, Eleanor felt the weight of the mystery pressing in on her more than ever before. The past was not merely a distant melody, and the secrets that bind you to it. With that he turned, his figure disappearing into the crowd, leaving Eleanor and the villagers in a state of heightened tension. It was alive, and it was watching. The secrets beneath the manor. Eleanor's footsteps echoed against the worn wooden floorboards as she entered the Ashcombe Manor, the weight of history pressing in on her with every step. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and dust, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of the house, as if it too remembered the past. The grand hall, once a place of celebration and grandeur, now stood in solemn decay, its gilded mirrors clouded with time, its chandeliers hanging precariously from the ceiling. The manor had not been touched in decades, its halls left to the slow, inexorable march of time. She moved deeper into the house, her fingers trailing along the cold stone walls, her mind racing with the knowledge that she was standing in the very place where the Ashcombe legacy had been forged and shattered. The heirloom, the missing pendant that had haunted the village for generations, had once been displayed in this very room, its presence a symbol of the family's wealth and prestige. Now it was gone, and its absence had left an emptiness that seemed to stretch into the very foundations of the manor. Eleanor's search led her to the library, a room that had once been the heart of the Ashcombe estate, where books had lined the shelves and the scent of old parchment had filled the air. But now the library was a tomb of forgotten knowledge, its shelves sagging under the weight of time, its books brittle with age. She moved carefully among the stacks, her fingers brushing against the spines of books that had once been the heart of the Ashcombe estate, where books had lined the shelves and the scent of old parchment had once been the stretchin', not been opened in decades. Some of them bore the Ashcombe crest, their pages filled with the family's history, their secrets written in ink that had long since faded. Then, in the far corner of the room, she found it, a hidden passage, concealed behind a heavy wooden panel that had been cleverly disguised as part of the bookshelf. The panel was slightly ajar, as if it had been left that way by someone who had known the secret of its existence. Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest as she reached out, her fingers brushing against the cool wood. With a careful push, the panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. The air that drifted up from the passage was damp and cold, carrying with it the scent of earth and something else, something ancient. Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest as she reached out, the tasons, the sentinels perching against the cool wood. With a careful push, the panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended off. Hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, her lantern casting flickering shadows against the stone walls. The staircase led her downward, into the depths of the manor, where the weight of the past seemed to press in on her with every step. At the bottom of the stairs, she found herself in a chamber that had been long forgotten. The room was small, its walls lined with shelves that held objects of immense historical significance. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a single object, a pendant, its surface gleaming even in the dim light. It was the heirloom, the missing piece that had eluded the Ashcombe family for so long. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat as she reached for it, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the cool metal. The pendant was unlike any she had seen before, its design intricate and elegant, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to pulse with an energy that defied explanation. It was not merely a piece of jewelry, it was a relic of a forgotten time, a testament to the family's legacy and the secrets that had been buried beneath the manor for generations. As she held the pendant in her hands, a strange sensation washed over her, a feeling of connection, of recognition. It was as if the past was reaching out to her, whispering its secrets in a language she had not yet learned to understand. The mystery of the Ashcombe family was no longer just a historical curiosity, it was a living truth, one that had been waiting for her to uncover. The truth revealed as Eleanor stood in the dimly lit chamber, the weight of the pendant in her hands. A profound realization began to take shape within her. The heirloom was not merely a relic of the Ashcombe family's legacy, it was a key to understanding the very fabric of the village itself. The pendant, with its intricate design and ancient symbols, was a testament to the Ashcombe family's connection to the land and the people of Wexham. It was a bridge between the past and the present, a reminder of the tragedies that had shaped the village and the lives of its inhabitants. Eleanor's mind raced as she recalled the stories she had heard as a child, the whispers of the Ashcombe family scandal, and the haunting tale of the missing heirloom. The pendant was not just a family heirloom, was a symbol of the family's guilt, a reminder of the dark choices that had led to their downfall. It was the very thing that had caused the villagers to turn against the Ashcombe name, a symbol of betrayal and shame that had lingered in the air of Wexham for generations. As she examined the pendant, a sudden clarity washed over her. The Ashcombe family had not merely been the victims of their own ambition, they had been the architects of their own fate. The scandal that had erupted in 1893 had not only shattered their lives, but had also left an indelible mark on the village. The villagers had been caught in the crossfire of the Ashcombe family's choices, their lives intertwined with the legacy of a family that had once stood at the pinnacle of power and prestige. The tragedy of Thomas Ashcombe, the untimely death that had followed Edward's disgrace, was not merely an accident, but a consequence of the family's own actions. Eleanor felt the weight of the past pressing down on her as she realized the truth. The heirloom had been hidden not just for protection, but as a means of atonement. The Ashcombe family, in their final days, had sought to conceal the pendant, a symbol of their guilt, from the very people they had wronged. The villagers had been left to grapple with the consequences of the Ashcombe legacy, their lives forever altered by the choices made in the name of power and pride. But there was more to the story. As Eleanor delved deeper into the chamber, she noticed a hidden compartment beneath the pendant, but step to step the consequence of the pendant, a symbol of their guilt, from the very people they had wronged. The villagers had been left to grapple with the consequences of the Ashcombe legacy, their lives forever altered by the choices made in the name of power and pride. Sealed with a lock that bore the Ashcombe crest, with a trembling hand she opened the drawer, revealing a collection of letters and documents that had been hidden for decades. The letters were from the last surviving Ashcombe heir, a woman named Margaret Ashcombe, who had lived in the village for many years, her life spent in the shadow of her family's disgrace. The letters spoke of a different side to the Ashcombe legacy, one that had been lost in the tales of scandal and tragedy. Margaret had written of her own experiences, of the burden she had carried as the last heir and the guilt that had weighed heavily on her shoulders. She had sought to reconcile with the villagers, to make amends for the pain her family had caused, but her efforts had been met with resistance. The villagers, still reeling from the Ashcombe scandal, had turned their backs on her, unwilling to forgive the family that had once held such power over their lives. Eleanor felt a surge of emotion as she read the words, the weight of the past pressing against her like a tidal wave. The Ashcombe family had not only shaped the village's history, they had also shaped Eleanor's own life. The legacy of the Ashcombe family was not merely a distant memory, it was a part of her, a thread that wove through her very being. She had spent years trying to distance herself from the past, to escape the shadows of her family's history, but now she understood that she could not run from it. The past had haunted the present, and the present was inextricably linked to the legacy of the Ashcombe family. The village of Wexham was not just a place of history, it was a living testament to the choices made by those who had come before. Eleanor realized that she was not merely an observer of the past, she was a part of it, and the truth of the Ashcombe family's legacy would forever shape the future of Wexham. As she stood in the chamber, the pendant in her hands, she felt a sense of purpose rise within her. The past was not a burden to be borne, but a lesson to be learned, and it was time to confront the truth that had haunted the village for so long. Boo! Confronting the past, Eleanor stood in the dimly lit chamber, the weight of the past pressing upon her like a shroud. The pendant, in her hands, once a symbol of the Ashcombe legacy, now felt like a burden she had carried for far too long. It was not merely an heirloom, it was a testament to the choices made by her ancestors, a reminder of the pain and suffering that had shaped the village of Wexham. As she held the pendant in her hands, she felt the echoes of the past reverberating through her, urging her to confront the truth that had been buried for generations. With a deep breath, Eleanor made her decision. She would not let the past haunt the present any longer. The villagers of Wexham had suffered under the weight of the Ashcombe legacy, and it was time for that legacy to be acknowledged, not shrouded in silence. She would return the pendant to its rightful place, not as a relic of shame, but as a symbol of reconciliation. It was a gesture of atonement, a way to honor the lives that had been affected by the Ashcombe family's choices. As she stepped out of the chamber, Eleanor felt a sense of clarity wash over her. The past was not a chain that bound her, it was a part of her, a thread that wove through her very being. She would not run from it, but rather embrace it, allowing it to guide her in the future. The villagers of Wexham would need to face the truth, to confront the legacy that had shaped their lives, and she would be the one to lead them through that reckoning. Eleanor's heart swelled with determination as she made her way back to the village square, the pendant securely wrapped in a cloth. The villagers, who had watched her with a mixture of curiosity and fear, now gathered around her, their eyes reflecting the weight of history. She raised her voice, not in fear, but in resolve. "It is time to confront the past," she declared, her words echoing through the square. "We cannot continue to be haunted by the legacy of the Ashcombe family. We must face the truth together." As the villagers listened, a hush fell over the square, the air thick with anticipation. Eleanor could see the fear in their eyes, but also the hope that perhaps, with her guidance, they could begin to heal. The past had haunted the present, but now, with the truth laid bare, there was a chance for a new beginning. The legacy of the Ashcombe family would not be forgotten, but it would be transformed into a lesson learned, a reminder of the power of forgiveness and the importance of confronting the past. In that moment, Eleanor understood that the past was not merely a shadow to be cast aside. It was a part of her identity, a legacy that would shape the future of Wexham. With the pendant in her hands, she was ready to embrace the truth, to confront the past, and to lead the village into a future where the weight of history would no longer be a burden, but a foundation upon which they could build something new. The air was thick with the scent of earth and history, a reminder of the legacy that had shaped not only the village, but her very being. The mystery of the missing heirloom had been unraveled, but the weight of the past lingered in the air like an unspoken truth, a whisper that echoed through the cobbled streets and the shadowed corners of the manor. Eleanor felt a profound sense of closure as she gazed at the manor, now a silent witness to the events that had transpired within its walls. The village had been transpired within its walls. The village had been transformed by the revelations of the past, and with that transformation came a new understanding of the Ashcombe legacy. The villagers, once burdened by the weight of their history, now stood on the precipice of healing. The pendant, once a symbol of shame, had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that even the darkest legacies could be confronted and reconciled. Yet, as Eleanor turned to face the village, she could not shake the feeling that the past was still very much alive, its presence woven into the fabric of the present. The stories of the Ashcombe family would continue to echo through the generations, a testament to the choices made and the lessons learned. The mystery of the heirloom had been solved, but the legacy of the heirloom had been solved. But the legacy of the Ashcombe family would remain a part of Wexham's identity, a reminder of the power of the past to shape the future. As the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Eleanor felt a sense of peace settle over her. The past had haunted the present, but now, with the truth laid bare, she could embrace the future with a newfound sense of purpose. The village of Wexham would continue to thrive, its history woven into the lives of its people, and Eleanor knew that she would carry the legacy of the Ashcombe family with her, not as a burden, but as a guiding light. No. Do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories. Hit the notification bell to be notified of new stories when they become available. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me if you enjoyed the story and want to hear more like it.